Oh,
yes, we are.
We're talking
ready.
productivity myths, by the way.
Yeah. There's so many productivity myths.
There are, but we're only going to talk about 3.
Yeah, well.
Because we only have 25 minutes.
And life is short.
Right. Life is short. We are dying. And I mean that in the nicest way possible. Like, it's just the reality. Also, let me fix this.
All right. Thank you. Okay.
So, I need to say this very carefully because I am a systems person.
You are absolutely a systems person. I mean, I would know because I am not.
Like, I have systems that actually works. And my calendar works most of the time. My writing blocks usually hold. And I'm not just winging it.
No, you're deeply not winging it.
Right, but picture it. November, the Microsoft migration.
Yes.
Has completely wrecked my workflow, and I am still not fully recovered. So, like, it hasn't been good.
Yeah, that was chaos. Less for me than for you.
Oh gosh, total chaos. When you have everything linked up.
And it all goes away.
And what stuck me, what has stuck with me is, like, when everything fell apart, it was how fast things fell apart.
Mm-hmm.
Like, once that structure wasn't there, it just all went out. But in the second my system got disrupted, like, that didn't change anything in, like, my working life. I still had the same meetings. I still had the same teaching. I still had the same, like, production plan, et cetera, et cetera. So, like, that was a thing.
So the system was actually more of a heavy lift than you thought you were? Because you were always talking about systems.
Oh, no. I knew it was doing heavy lifting, right? Like, and the thing that all of that made me realize, one, don't trust a university with your productivity systems because they can decide to change their vendors.
Yeah.
But also this notion of, like, a lot of productivity advice that is given to academics, whether you're mid-career or young, assumes that you have a system, and once you have that system, you're good. But I'm not quite sure if that's actually true.
So what happens when those conditions aren't there?
I mean, that's exactly the question, because if the system only works when everything lines up, then what are we actually telling people when we say just build a better system?
Yeah, and who actually has those conditions consistently? And I'm thinking about, when we move between jobs or roles or departments or whatever happens in our lives, what happens to those systems is critical.
Right, and I think that's where a lot of productivity advice in academia starts to fall apart. I'm Nick. I'm an associate professor of elementary literacy education.
I'm Guy. I'm a professor of education and innovative learning technologies here at UNL.
The script says professor of awesomeness. He still does not read that. It's fine. And this is not that kind of doctor. And today we're not giving you productivity tips. We're not. Sorry. So this is, if you're looking for a how-to, we are not it. But what we are doing is we're taking the advice academics are given and asking what actually happens when you try to follow it. 3 myths, 25 minutes.
All right.
And we're on.
Myth number 1. Movement is important. Not a myth. Not a myth.
Not a myth. No. So I think one of the biggest myths, and we've talked about this on the channel before, is write every day. You should write every day.
Yes. Should you?
I mean, isn't that the question? You should write every day, but, like, what are the conditions that you actually have to write every day? I mean, do you write every day?
No. I would like to believe that I am, but I'm not. I write a few times a week.
Okay.
But not every day. And it took me a long time to get there. I mean, early on, I was writing every day. I couldn't find a reason not to write. That was my methodology for a long time, which shows up in my productivity. So if you don't write, you cannot publish. But that's very early in my career. But I don't write every day. I do not. And I think that it's something to strive for in some ways, but you have to be realistic. For example, I had individual meetings with my students yesterday. And did I have holes in my calendar? I absolutely did. I had 20 minutes here, 40 minutes there. I did not write.
Ooh, we're going to talk about that later. That's a good segue to, I think, myth number 2, number 3. One of them, because that's the only other 2 myths that we have. Conclusive.
Yes.
Conclusive. I am so smart. I don't write every day either. And as I'm transitioning out of leadership roles, I suspect that's going to change.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that makes this myth so problematic is sometimes you literally can't. There are certain things, like research will tell us that the structural constraints shape productivity more than individual habits. Link to the article in the description.
Ooh.
So when my position as coordinator requires a crap ton of work, that time has to go from somewhere, and it doesn't necessarily come from teaching because that's immediate. And service is what keeps the university going, right? So when I used to feel really bad about that, particularly here.
Yeah.
But then realized the structure is not set up to support that. The structure is not set up to support, you write every day, or here's how we're protecting your time. Lots of meetings with no point. Lots of positions that don't have clear structures for how to get things done. There's lots of stuff structurally that gets in the way.
Yes.
And that's worth noting.
And it also, when you talk about that cycle of, you're supposed to write every day, you didn't write today, shame or sadness or whatever it is, that sense of loss is not really helping. So it's something to strive if you can let go of that shame and say, this semester I'm taking on these roles, I have this big project, I'm going to write 2 times a week or 3 times a week or 1 time a week. I don't know. I think that from a myth perspective, you have to write every day. I think that it was battling another myth. So just to balance it out, it was battling a myth that was very common, at least when I was entering the field. And that was, you're going to have a retreat and for 3 days, you're going to compensate for a whole year of not writing. And you're going to go to this special place and just sit with yourself and your thoughts and generate manuscript after manuscript. Never happens. Absolutely never happens. You get to that retreat and all you do is nap.
Yep.
That's what you do when you take a few days in the summer. This is that. So I think that's why they talked about writing every day. But I think that there's a happy medium there, isn't there?
I think there is. And I think there is when you move outside of, you write every day, that becomes a moral issue. My gosh, I'm not an academic, I don't write every day. No, screw that. You write when you can write. As long as you're writing, great. Right? But we need to pull it away from this notion of, if I don't write every day, you okay?
Yeah.
Okay, if I'm not writing every day, I'm failing as an academic.
And realizing the constraints, and that is when power shifts, right? And this is where tenure comes in, and this is where promotion comes in. The more you are in the system, the more established you are, the easier it is for you to put boundaries and to change or to adapt your play within the system to control more of your time. But when you're entering the system, a graduate student, a young assistant professor, you at least don't feel like, and that's partially a failure of the system again, you don't feel like you can say, this is going to be a waste of my time. I would rather go and write. So the empowerment to make choices doesn't exist when you feel like, I need to make tenure. I need to not piss off too many people in the process. So I'm going to go to all the meetings, even though there are 14 other people there, and I sit in the corner, and in my case, play video games. Sorry.
You could be writing.
Not while I'm in the meeting.
What are you playing these days?
Oh, these days? Balatro, mostly.
Oh.
Yeah, just endless rounds of...
Oh, I've been playing Wingspan.
Wingspan? Oh, yeah, well.
It's great.
Yeah, so I've heard. I have not. Oh, we broke open the Mahjong at my house.
Fun.
We broke out the Mahjong, and that's going to happen. That has happened already. One first round right here.
Of course he did. Of course he did.
Probably last round I'm ever going to win, but that's okay.
So somewhat related to this, let's move into myth number 2, which is this notion of kind of related, write every day, but also like that just 30 minutes a day. Do these things in 30 minutes, whether it's advising or emailing or writing or service work, right?
Yes.
Because here's my problem with this is, yes, there are certain things that I can get done in 30 minutes. And you talked about this in the just write every day. And the appealing, the seductive part about this is it feels achievable. Like you can find 30 minutes. I can find 30 minutes kind of everywhere. But how do you do complex work in 30 minutes?
That goes back, to my between meetings when I'm hyper-focused on what my students are telling me and trying to give them meaningful feedback. Then those 30 minutes in between, or 20 minutes, we finished after 10 minutes. I've got 20 minutes until the next batch. Can I get into some deep work? And the answer is no. You can't.
Well, I mean, and it's not necessarily that you can't, right? Like research will talk about there are certain triggers that you can do to get yourself into flow.
Yeah.
But do you have the time then to do the prep work in order to do that?
Yeah.
That's another question, right? Like, it's April 1st. I've got a manuscript due at 5 p.m. True story. I've laid out blocks throughout the day because today is meeting heavy of things that I need to get done, and I've prepped myself to do that work because there's really no other option. Not procrastinating, just
working.
It took a little longer to develop. That's how writing works, right? And so like the cognitive capacity is important. So like what kind of work can be done in 30 minutes and what kind of work can't? What's your take on that?
And I mean, I need more than 30 minutes if I'm doing heavy work because, again, going back to systems, there's garbage time around systems, especially technological systems. And again, going back to constraints, the university has chosen to go with Microsoft. Thank you, y'all. And Microsoft has a lot of advantages. One of the places where it fails repeatedly is with sharing with people outside the institution. So if I'm working with a group who needs to get the same information, and it's got to be on the Microsoft platform because this is research, blah, blah, blah. Suddenly, we're spending 15 minutes just getting them to finally log on so they can see the document.
Yep.
And so there went half of my time. And I'm like, I am not entering into that relationship. And I do most of my work, and we've talked about this before, most of my work is collaborative. I'm working with people in real time. So everybody's got to have access to the same damn things. And then the systems that your university decided to invest in is doing nothing to help me.
Yes.
And it's actually, sometimes it seems like it's actively trying to sabotage my work. And so the systems again matter. And if we lived in a different system, that's why most of the times when we're not discussing actual data, we shift over to Google. Why? Because Google's collaboration, they have other problems, but the collaboration platform is fantastic.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't have problems?
Google, I do. I love you. It's okay.
It's fine.
It's fine. I need to make peace.
You do.
But the systems that somebody chose for whatever reason really constrains you. And
Yes.
what you can do.
Yeah, and so that context shifting, right? There's not only the context of the cognitive load that you have to engage in, but also like what are the technological constructs that you need in order to do that work, right?
Yeah.
And again, research, because we are nothing if not researchers. Well, no, that's a lie.
We are many things.
We are more than researchers,
We
gosh darn
contain
it.
multitudes.
I'm going to send that clip to my therapist. She's going to be so proud. So proud. But research will tell us that like burnout, like trying to do that's going to impair working memory and real world work performance, right? As well as just like multitasking, if you're thinking about multitasking and fragmentation, that actually, according to empirical evidence, right, actually increases errors, reduces performance, and helps slow completion, right? So is it actually buying us what we think it is, right? Because not all academic work is interchangeable, right? Writing an email is not the same as writing an argument.
Yeah, absolutely. I can write an email in half an hour.
You can write an email in like 2 seconds. I saw you like shoot off 3 of them. So,
but it really depends on what you can do. I want to talk about another structure. I don't know if that's what but you brought up the cognitive load, and I want to say that it is our job, though we sometimes fail at it, to realize that people are facing multiple sources of cognitive load, and there are systems that are outside the system. So, for example, we have colleagues who are international scholars who are trying to work through their visa process. That load is sitting on them at all times when they're going through the process. And I think that we as a system, as a university, we're not very good at identifying it, realizing it, and building an accommodation around it that would allow these scholars to grow and to thrive. Instead, we're saying, you need to do everything else and this. And obviously, eventually, the criteria are the same. These are often excellent scholars, and that's why we hire. But we need to recognize that there are periods in that process that they need some help from us to identify what to unload so they can load. And I've had a number of conversations about that just recently. So that's another way to think about how the system is not built. The system assumes everybody's the same, and everybody's not the same.
Right. And there's institutional systems and there's really personal systems, right? And they're always in conversation with each other, which those personal systems, one, it's interesting that those are the systems that tend to really support productivity in an academic institution. But there's also like this myth of, oh, you just need a better system. You need a better pipeline. You need more strategic thinking. You need a 5-year plan. You need a 3-year plan. You need a 2-month plan. And some of that is genuinely helpful, but some of it is just noise. And so this notion that there's always a better system out there than the one you're actually using. Thoughts on that? Because I have been thinking about that a lot since November.
You and I work differently. So I give very short time for systems. And when they get complicated or they lead to avoidance, I dump them as quickly as I adapt them. Because I've stopped looking for, I'm too old to look for
You're good at hitting it and quitting it.
Okay, no comment.
Apps, people, app-wise.
Yes. And so my lean is always people, which also can fail, right? Because people suddenly have something in their lives that I have to recognize, identify, and move on. But I rely more on people and on very simple systems. I've really talked about how you can use your Notes app really effectively. That Notes app has never gone away from me. So here we go. So my pipeline still sits in two places, my publication pipeline, because I need to have it at the tips of my fingers, and it's always with me. So the balance there is maybe less rely on systems and become, less sophisticated is more better. That's what I'm landing on.
I mean, here's
you can adapt to the systems around that are not supported.
Here's the reality: is that the best system is the system that helps you get stuff done. And whatever tools are in that system, is like sprinkles on the cake, right?
Yes.
Like I'm playing with Notion. Genuinely trying to think through if Notion is a better option for me than some other things that I've used in the past, because I'm at a breaking point. I moved my entire system into Microsoft like an idiot. And then the university was like, poof, migration, all my stuff disappeared. And now I have been floundering.
Yes, without access to everything you need.
Without access to everything that I need to do my work. And it was set up to work fairly well.
Yes.
And so now I'm having to go back to the system that I had set up before that and recreate it. So like Notion is we're dating. We're going to see how this works for a month. And if it doesn't work, I'm going to pull a guy and not do it. But I think one of the things that I've avoided this particular cycle is like, normally people are like, oh, if I do this, if I use this new tool, this new system,
it's going to solve everything.
It's going to solve everything, right? And then it doesn't. And then you're blaming yourself because, oh, you couldn't make the system work, right?
And often it is, again, recognizing the external system, the system that is all around you and is really limiting what you can do. So it is not you.
It is not you, right? And if your system doesn't work, if your personal system doesn't work within the institutional system, well, that's not a you problem. That's not a you problem. That's a misalignment between the work you're being asked to do and how you're able to actually do it, right? Because academic work is really, really characterized by intensification. Like there are moments where all you're doing is this one thing, and metric pressure. Our annual reviews were all about academic analytics. Right?
I blocked it out. I don't actually remember.
Yeah, I think I passed out or dissociated something, and limited autonomy. Or lots of autonomy where everyone has a vote, but also a veto, and that's weird. As well as opinions. So understanding that resilience is not necessarily a great narrative here. It shifts responsibilities to individuals and it masks that institutional overload. And there's no personal system out there that's going to
fix that.
Right. Make up that gap between what the institution is asking of you and the fact that you have 24 hours a day and are a functioning human being who hopefully has people in their lives that they want to spend time with and hobbies. If you don't have a hobby yet, please get a hobby.
I feel seen right now.
Puzzles. We've already covered this.
Yes.
You like puzzles.
Yes. And history podcasts, yes.
And history podcasts, right? So essentially you can't optimize your way out of a structural overload. Doesn't exist. Doesn't exist. So, all right. 3 myths about productivity that seem okay on the outset, but actually are not all that great.
Capitalism.
Capitalism, which weirdly, colleges love to be like, we're above capitalism. No, we're not. We're not.
Well, if you go with systems theory, we are operating within the world, and our world is that.
Totally, not outside of it. So, right. So keep in mind, I think if there's anything that I want you to take away from this video, and I don't know if Guy agrees with me, but that's okay. We're allowed to
disagree. Yeah.
And we do productively.
Yeah.
It's one of the things I enjoy about you. One of the many things. But is this notion that most productivity advice assumes that the problem is you. And we may have been guilty of that on our own podcast, right? So, however, when you actually dig into the research, and again, links in the description, like the problems is really the conditions that you're working under. So if you're feeling like I am not as productive as I could be, I need a better system, I need to write every day, I need to figure out what I can do in 30 minutes, right? Like, if the structure is not meeting you, that's a larger problem.
And that's a conversation.
And that's a conversation, right? That's a definite conversation. So if your system, and the other thing is, if your system only works when your life is perfect.
Yeah.
When is your life perfect? I want to know, and what did you do to get it there? Because I am struggling over here. But if it only works when your life is perfect, that's not a system.
And that means that, and we've talked about this before, if you're working at the 100% all the time, the smallest thing that happens, perfect or imperfect, is going to cause a major overflow.
Welcome to my life. Right now. Arg. So thanks for watching. Thanks for sticking with us. We'll see you in the next one.